Mateo Alvarez was a man haunted by the past. A tragic accident had stolen his family, leaving a gaping wound in his heart. Driven by his grief, Mateo dedicated his life to conquering time itself. He dreamt of turning back the clock, of rewriting history and holding his loved ones again. His obsession became his life's work, consuming him entirely. Years bled into each other, filled with complex equations and endless prototypes, until the day his impossible dream became a terrifying reality. Mateo Alvarez had invented a time machine. The air crackled with energy as Mateo powered up his creation for the first time. His heart pounded against his ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation and fear. Mateo was a scientist, a man of logic, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was tampering with forces beyond his comprehension. Mateo input the date into the machine's archaic interface, May 12, 1925. With a deep breath, Mateo stepped into the unknown. The world dissolved around Mateo in a dizzying rush of light and sound. His senses reeled as he stumbled out of the temporal distortion, the familiar hum of his workshop replaced by the vibrant chaos of 1920s Buenos Aires. The scent of roasting coffee beans and fresh bread filled the air, a stark contrast to the sterile environment he left behind. People bustled around him, their clothes, their language, their very essence a stark reminder that he was a stranger in this time. Mateo navigated the cobblestone streets, his senses overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of the past. He found himself drawn to a familiar plaza, a place etched in his memory from old family photographs. Children chased pigeons, their laughter echoing through the square. Mateo felt a pang of bittersweet nostalgia, a yearning for a past he could never truly reclaim. As Mateo watched the children play, his attention was drawn to a young boy playing near the edge of a fountain. The boy, lost in his own world, inched closer to the edge, oblivious to the danger. Mateo's blood ran cold as he recognized the boy from old family photos. Without hesitation, Mateo sprang into action. He had interfered with the delicate tapestry of time, and he had no idea what the consequences might be. Mateo stumbled back to his workshop, his mind reeling from his journey to the past. The familiar surroundings felt alien, the air thick with a strange energy. He had returned, but something felt different, off-kilter. A sense of unease gnawed at his gut. He had tampered with time, and now time itself seemed to be unraveling around him. Panic swelled in Mateo's chest as he fumbled for the controls of his time machine. He had to go back, try to undo whatever he had set in motion. But as he initiated the temporal jump, the world outside his workshop dissolved into a surreal, nightmarish landscape. Gone were the familiar streets of his city, replaced by towering structures of twisted metal and shimmering glass. The air hummed with an unnatural energy, and the sky blazed with a sickly, unnatural light. Mateo stepped out of his workshop and into a dystopian nightmare. This wasn't his time, not anymore. He had traded one tragedy for another, and the weight of his actions threatened to crush him. Desperation clawed at Mateo, fueling him to push his time machine further, to attempt to stitch the fabric of time back together. Each jump, however, only seemed to worsen the situation, tightening the noose of his unintended consequences. He was lost in a labyrinth of his own making, each turn leading him further astray. The future morphed and contorted around him, each iteration more disturbing than the last. One moment he found himself in a world shrouded in perpetual darkness, the only light emanating from the bioluminescent flora that had overtaken the skeletal remains of civilization. The next, he was in a world eerily devoid of sound, the silence broken only by the whisper of the wind whistling through the canyons of abandoned skyscrapers. Each jump was a gamble, a desperate roll of the dice, and with each attempt, Mateo felt himself slipping further into despair. He was caught in a quicksand of his own making, and the more he struggled, the deeper he sank. The weight of this realization was almost unbearable. Just as Mateo felt himself succumbing to despair, a voice cut through the chaos. It was a woman's voice, strong and steady, speaking in a Spanish dialect that hinted at a future far beyond his comprehension. "Mateo Alvarez!" the voice boomed, echoing through the temporal distortions that surrounded him. "Your actions have not gone unnoticed. You are playing a dangerous game, one that could unravel the very fabric of existence." Mateo shielded his eyes from the blinding light that accompanied the voice. As his vision cleared, he saw her. She stood amidst the temporal chaos, an island of calm in a storm of his creation. Her eyes, a vibrant emerald green, seemed to see through him, into the very depths of his soul. She was tall, imposing, her silver hair pulled back in a tight braid that emphasized the sharp angles of her face. "My name is Sofia Valdez," the woman replied, her voice resonating with an authority that sent chills down Mateo's spine. "I am one of Los Protectores del Tiempo, the Guardians of Time. We have been watching you, Mateo Alvarez. To tamper with those threads is to risk unraveling everything." Sofia's warning resonated deeply with Mateo. He had been so blinded by his own grief, so consumed by his desire to fix the past, that he hadn't stopped to consider the wider implications of his actions. He had been reckless, foolish, and now the future, perhaps even existence itself, hung in the balance. Sofia, seeing the remorse in Mateo's eyes, offered a glimmer of hope. She explained that while his actions had indeed caused significant damage to the timeline, it might not be too late to salvage something from the wreckage. The Los Protectores del Tiempo had been working to contain the temporal anomalies he had created, but they needed his help, his knowledge of the time machine, to set things right. Their alliance, however, was not without its challenges. The temporal distortions Mateo had created had attracted unwanted attention. Strange metallic creatures, beings seemingly forged from the very fabric of time itself, began to pour through the rifts, drawn by the promise of chaos and destruction. These creatures, Sofia explained, were manifestations of the instability Mateo had unleashed, physical embodiments of the temporal paradoxes he had created. Mateo and Sofia found themselves locked in a desperate battle for survival, not just for their own lives but for the fate of time itself. They fought side by side, their skills complementing each other. Mateo, with his knowledge of technology and his quick thinking, used his inventions to disrupt the creatures, while Sofia, a master of temporal combat, fought with a grace and precision that belied the chaos around them. In the end, it was Mateo's own capacity for love, his memories of his family, that allowed him to overcome the darkness within himself and banish Oscuro Mateo back into the chaotic void. The battle against Oscuro Mateo took its toll on Mateo. He had stared into the abyss of his own soul and emerged victorious, but the experience left him shaken, profoundly changed. He had seen the depths of his own capacity for destruction, the havoc that his unchecked grief could wreak upon the world. He realized then that the only way to truly set things right, to heal the damage he had caused, was to make the ultimate sacrifice. He had to erase the time machine. Not just disable it, not just hide it, but completely erase it from existence. It was the only way to ensure that no one, not even himself, would ever again wield its power to disrupt the delicate balance of time. Sofia, though heartbroken at the thought of losing Mateo, understood the necessity of his decision. She had witnessed firsthand the depths of his remorse, his unwavering determination to atone for his actions. She stood by his side as he prepared to activate the self-destruct sequence, her hand resting on his arm, a silent promise that he would not be forgotten. As the countdown began, Mateo looked at Sofia, his heart heavy with regret, but also a strange sense of peace. He had made terrible mistakes, but he had learned from them, grown from them. Before Mateo could finish his sentence, the time machine erupted in a blinding flash of light, the energy surge erasing him and his creation from existence. Sofia stood in the silence, the echoes of the time machine's destruction fading into the hum of normalcy. The world around her was whole again, the timeline restored, but a part of her ached for the man who had sacrificed everything to make it right. Mateo Alvarez was gone, his existence wiped clean, yet his actions, both his mistakes and his ultimate redemption, would forever be etched in the annals of time. As Sofia prepared to leave, to return to her own time and report to the other guardians, she noticed something lying on the floor where the time machine had once stood. It was a small, leather-bound notebook, singed around the edges but still intact. She picked it up, her fingers tracing the worn leather, and opened it to the first page. In Mateo's familiar handwriting, she found a note, a message from beyond the veil of time. It read, "Sofia, some things are more important than fixing the past." Mateo Alvarez might be gone, his existence erased, but his story, his sacrifice would live on. A cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit.